All right, it's Grant Random here at Epicenter with Trenton, Alex, and Joel of Hands Like Houses. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
I'm psyched to talk to you because I've never met you before. And the first thing I have to ask you is, I know you're from Canberra, Australia.
Yeah.
Did I say that properly?
You just say it as quickly as possible.
Canberra?
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 And then drop the
Canberra. Canberra.
Canberra.
Was that all right?
Yeah.
That was pretty good, yeah.
Okay. All I know is it's the capital of Australia. What else can you tell us about it? Because we're trying to get to know you a little bit.
There's a lot of roundabouts.
I think it's known as the bush capital.
The bush capital. Do elaborate, please.
So there's just a lot of vegetation. There's a lot of trees.
A lot of national parks.
A lot of national
rivers
parks.
That was not the answer I was expecting.
It's a sweet
I thought you were going somewhere else with it. But properly, it's known as the bush
I mean, that's
capital.
another way to promote Canberra for sure. But
I think it would be a good way to promote it, right? That would really maybe tick up tourism a bit.
well, it's funny that you do make that innuendo, as Canberra's also known for porn and fireworks. So that's
Porn and fireworks?
When porn was a little less publicly visible before the internet, it was just one of the few places in Australia it was legalized, easily accessible for a long time.
We can give you the history of porn or the history of Canberra. Which one do you want?
Well, now
Yeah.
you've got me interested
the reputation stuck
in the history of porn, because now one could say that Canberra is the porn capital of Australia, correct?
That's something that you can try and push towards people. We'll see how well it goes down.
Okay, so maybe it's not so much the porn capital anymore.
Potentially not. No, yeah.
Not these
A little
days.
quieter.
Okay, well so we can look back at the porn glory days of Canberra, correct?
Potentially
Maybe.
the golden era.
Fireworks.
And
Fireworks
fireworks.
before
We're
they
leaving out the
outlawed it.
fireworks. Fireworks is a big draw as well.
Yeah,
Everyone
it was
loves
Oh yeah,
It
what's the
was-
fireworks thing?
It was the only kind of territory in Australia where you could buy fireworks over the counter for a long time, but it's been about 5-10 years
about
since
10 years ago
they cut that off because people are idiots.
So I love the fact, though, that it seems like the city was sort of known for illicit things. Like it was just kind of the outlaw sort of center of
that
Australia.
goes hand in hand with politics, doesn't it? It's kind of like how it all fits
Because
together.
it's the capital.
Had
so-
to keep the pollies entertained.
Right. So when you have politicians,
They
you
need
need
some
porn and
pastimes.
fireworks.
Apparently so.
Exactly.
I love it. I love it. The newest album is called Anon. Is that correct?
That is,
Correct,
yep.
And I understand there's like a kind of a social media sort of element to it, a commentary.
I think so. I mean, the album itself was kind of just about telling stories. I think being our fourth record, going into the writing process from a lyrical side of things, it was a bit difficult to kind of think, how do I write new songs without repeating myself, or kind of. And I think the thing was kind of lending my emotional experience to other stories.
Yeah.
And so kind of interpreting situations around us, there's a few different subjects, but I guess the one song that kind of felt like the centerpiece for the album is Sick, which is doing the rounds at the moment.
It is doing the rounds.
Thanks
yes.
for that. And
Yeah.
it's and that song was kind of a bit of a tongue-in-cheek sort of, stab at people who take advantage of other people, particularly in the job that we do, when
Some entitlement.
when your entire life is kind of put into a creative pursuit, and everyone suddenly has an opinion on it that they think matters more than just their personal feelings on it. I think that's when it's a hard thing to take.
Sure.
We've always understood, and we've kind of you got thick skin, you have to do it. But the song was very much this tongue-in-cheek sort of challenge to people that do just take everything that you are and then throw it away like it's nothing. And it's well, I've put myself into this, we've put ourselves into this, and it's, what I mean. I guess it's just, and then I guess as acidity is coming from that thick skin, I guess it's just well, it doesn't really bother us, but it's still part of your thing. It's impossible to kind of avoid it. So.
Okay. I like it. I got two more Australia-oriented questions, and I'm sorry
Sure.
if I'm harping
Go
on
for
this. What does Australia really think about New Zealand?
Well,
I guess it depends whether it's involved in sport or if it's involved in.
I've always said it's kind of like the way Americans feel about Canada.
Okay.
It's kind of that kind of condescending little side-shouldered kind of.
It's
You,
more,
you
it's more
guys do you,
joking.
but then again, we're also kind of jealous of their PM. Jacinta Ardern's a pretty amazing, just like you guys have got Trudeau versus Trump. We've got Ardern versus Morrison, and just their political thinking, and just the way that, especially I actually went there for my honeymoon last year and spent some time in the museum learning a bit about Maori culture and the way that they've integrated that into New Zealand's identity, and that's an amazing thing. So there's a lot that personally I think that we could learn from New Zealand. as you good from Canada, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And plus, there's a lot of gorgeous scenery in New Zealand.
Yeah,
too.
it's an incredible country.
Lord of the
Absolutely
Rings was
love it.
filmed there and all that.
Got to go to Hobbiton. It was awesome.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Wineries.
One more thing. So we're here at Epicenter, here a North American festival. So obviously there's a tradition of festivals in Australia. How would you compare festivals in Australia versus the ones here in the U.S.?
Ooh, I feel like Australian festivals tend to have a bit more of like a experience attached to it. I think the most of the festivals that are still going now tend to be more cultural festivals as much as music festivals. We did have Soundwave and Big Day Out for a long time, which were very similar sort of feel to these festivals like Epicenter that we've been lucky to do this year, and those were massive with similar sort of ridiculous lineups. I was actually talking with one of the other bands on our tour the other day about just how ridiculous the lineups were on Soundwave. Like, I got to work kind of behind the scenes driving bands for the year that they had, like Metallica, Linkin Park, Blink-182, Paramore, just so many insane bands on just like one single bill.
That's very cool.
But I don't know, there's a certain feel and enthusiasm I think for rock out here that doesn't necessarily exist as much in Australia now. So I think being in this world is pretty
bigger market for sure.
pretty cool to see.
The rock is very much alive
very
here in
much
North America.
Yeah.
Rockingham, isn't it? That's what it is.
We are, in fact, in
That's why you
Rockingham.
guys decided on the location.
Yeah, Exactly. Why not?
What better place to put
This,
it?
this
have-
is
we
truly
have to
the
have a festival.
epicenter of rock.
There
Yeah.
you go.
We're going to put a rock festival in Rockhampton in Australia.
It's a light bulb going off situation there.
What's next for Hands Like Houses?
What's next? We actually go back to Australia and play a festival, Big Pineapple Festival. And then we have, I think, about 3 weeks off, and then we go and do some summer festivals over in Europe, as well as our own headliner around those. So it's just festival time for us at the moment,
It's awesome.
Season.
which I'm not mad about whatsoever.
Very cool. Well, it's a pleasure to get to meet you guys,
Thank you
to
very
learn
much.
about
Pleasure to be
your
here.
homeland, the former porn capital of Australia.
We've given you some great insights into Australia.
Indeed. Thanks so much for chatting with us.
Thank you
worries,
very
man.
much.